I am back with another video, and this video today is really for people going into their first semester of nursing school who have to take the dosage calculation test. I know at my school we take it our first week of our first semester, so it's like your first test you take of nursing school. You can still watch it if you want to get ahead and just practice. At my school we use this book. It's called Calculate with Confidence by Deborah C. Gray Morris, and this is the 7th edition. I'm not sure if there's a new edition out, but this book really helped me a lot. And with the way that my school does it is you have to take a dosage calculation test every semester. If you don't pass it, you get put into a remedial class, and you have to take that class in place of your clinical, I want to say. So it kind of pushes you back a whole semester. Dosage calculation is really important because it's calculating doses, and as a nurse that's after caring for the patient, that's like one of our main priorities is administrating medicine, and we want to make sure that those doses are right so that we don't harm the patient and risk losing our license. I do not recommend that you use this video in place of studying. I recommend that you watch my video as an introduction and then still use your book, still use whatever resources your school gives you, and also use YouTube videos. I think that's it. Let's get into the video. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention was this video is going to be a little different from all my other videos. It's going to be a voiceover. Most of the other videos you guys are looking at me talk, but I actually wrote the stuff out on the whiteboard. I'm just going to do a voice over those whiteboard thingies. So let's get into the video. One thing I should add before we start is that this was the longest video I've ever made. The most editing I've ever had to do on a video. So if you see mistakes, if it's something little that you can live with, move on. If it's something that I need to fix or that I need to address, please, of course, let me know. My handwriting is in this video, so it's not for you to judge my handwriting, it's for you to learn dosage calculation. So even if you can't read my handwriting, I read everything out, I talk it out. Just had to put that disclaimer out there. I worked on this video for hours, literally editing it and making it right. So let's get started for real. Okay guys, so for this first video, the first thing that I went over was the 6 rights of medication. And they teach us this because when administering medication, patients have certain rights, and there are things that we have to remember to ensure the safety of the patient and also the safety of our license. So the 6 rights, there's like 10 rights, but the 6 rights that they really focus on at Prairie View's nursing school is you want to make sure you have the right patient. Then you want to make sure you have the right medication, the right dose, you're delivering the medication at the right time, that is the right route, and the patient has the right to refuse their medication. I tried to put it in an order that made it easy to remember. So right patient, right medication, right dose, right time, right route, and the right to refuse. And you're in the book Dosage Calculation that I showed you guys, Calculating with Confidence. They have 10 rights in the book, and their 10 rights is the right client, which is also the right patient, the right medication, the right dose, the right route, the right time, the right documentation, the right indication, the right to know, the right to refuse, and the right to respond. Once again, PV, they teach us all of these, but on our test, I know these are the only 6 that we had to know. Okay, and then the next thing that is important to know for nursing school is military time. What I noticed was that I kind of studied a lot for this test, maybe overstudied, but I felt more confident knowing these things and performing well. So the next thing is military time. What I did to help me learn military time was I turned my phone on to military time, and that helped me learn them. But anyway, the concept for learning military time. There's 24 hours in one day. So once midnight strikes, you start off at 0000. And the hours go all the way to 24 o'clock. So you have 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And a lot of times in the hospital, they say 100, 200, 300, 400, and so on and so forth. So when you're converting AM time to military time, what you want to do is you want to first drop the colons. A lot of times with military time, they don't use the colons anymore. Then you want to add a 0 to the beginning of a time. So let's say you have 8:36, like I have here at the bottom, 8:36 a.m. You want to drop those colons. Then you want to add a 0 to the front, and that's 08:36. So that's how military time is written at 8:36 in the morning. Now for 10 a.m. and 11 a.m., all you want to do is drop the colons. You don't want to add a 0 to the beginning because military time is just 4 digits. So if it was 10:08 a.m., you just drop the colons and make it 10:08. That's it. Now when you're converting PM, afternoon time, to military time, you want to again drop the colons. And this time you're going to add 1200 to whatever time you have, because you're in the afternoon. It's after 12 o'clock. So it's however many hours after 12. That's the reason why we're adding 12 to it. So, for example, if we had 2:16 p.m., you would add 1200 to 2:16, and that gives you 14:16. So it's 14:16 p.m. Another example would be 8:38 p.m. You add 1200 to 8:38, and you'll get 20:38 p.m. For noon, you just want to drop the colons. Don't add 12 to that. So if it's 12:02, just drop the colons, and it'll be 12:02. I think that's it for military time. I hope that makes sense. So now moving on to Roman numerals. A couple things that you want to remember. 3 rules you want to remember for the Roman numerals is the same Roman numeral is never repeated back to back 3 times. So as you see here, you will never see 4 ones written back and forth. So whenever you're writing your Roman numerals, just remember that you are not to write the same Roman numeral more than 3 times in a row. Another rule is if a Roman numeral of lesser value is placed after a one of greater value, you add them. So, for example, I have XV. X represents 10 in Roman numerals, and V represents 5. So because the Roman numeral of lesser value is placed after the Roman numeral of greater value, you're going to add those together and you'll get 15. The last rule is if a Roman numeral of greater value is placed after a lesser one of value, you subtract. So, for example, I have I, which stands for 1 in Roman numerals, and X, which stands for 10 in Roman numerals. You will subtract those because the one of lesser value is telling you to take 1 away from that one of greater value. So that will be 9. Up here at the top above Roman numerals, I have the Roman numerals. So SS stands for 1/2 in Roman numerals. I stands for 1, make it 2 I's, you have 2, make it 3 I's, you have 3. But then again, remember, you can't have more than 3 Roman numerals of the same Roman numerals in the row. So when I'm writing 4, I'm going to write the I, and I'm going to put it before the 5. Because anytime you have a Roman numeral of lesser value before a Roman numeral of greater value, you subtract those. So it'll be IV. So basically 1 minus 5, and that's 4. For 5, it's just plain V. For 6, you have VI, and that's because the Roman numeral, the Roman numeral of lesser value is placed after the Roman numeral of greater value, so you add them. Same concept for 7, 8. And then for 9, we have the Roman numeral of lesser value comes before the one of greater value, so we subtract 1 from that X to get 9. 10 in Roman numeral is an X. XV is 15, XX is 20, 3 X's is 30. Now over here on the side, they have 50, 100, 500, 1000, and 50 stands for L, C stands for 100, D stands for 500, and M stands for 1000. And my way of remembering this is the pattern is 5151. So you go 50, 100, 500, 1000. And each time you add a 0. So first you have 50. The next time I have a 5, I'm going to add a 0 to that to make it 500. Then I have 100. The next time I do it, I'm going to add a 0 to make 1,000. I hope you guys see what I'm doing. And basically a little mnemonic that people have to remember the LCDM value is lovely cats don't meow. So once again, L for 50, C for cat, L for 50, C for 100, D for 500, and M for 1,000. So that's that on Roman numerals. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to get into, we're going to start going into our equations, and we're going to start with the metric system. So you have grams, which is abbreviated with a lowercase g, which is the unit of measurement for weight. You have liters, which is abbreviated with a capital L, which is the unit of measurement for volume. And then you have meter, which is abbreviated by a little m, which is the unit of measurement for length. So we're going to start off with grams first. As I stated previously, it is abbreviated with a little g and is the unit of measurement for weight. Under grams, you have milligrams, which is abbreviated lowercase m, lowercase g, which is baby grams. It takes a lot of these to make 1 gram. And once I start showing you guys these equations that's down at the bottom, you'll see why I'm saying what I'm saying. Then after milligrams, we have micrograms, which is abbreviated MCG, and these are baby milligrams. It takes a lot of these to make 1 milligram. And then kilograms, this is kind of out of order. It is bigger than a gram. These are big grams. So it takes a lot of grams to make 1 of these kilograms. Okay, so when we're looking at equations, remember that a kilogram is bigger than a gram. So it's going to take a lot of grams to make kilograms. So 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. Next equation, we have 1 gram equals 1,000 milligrams. Remember, milligrams are baby grams, so it takes a lot of milligrams to make 1 gram. Our next equation is 1 milligram equals 1,000 micrograms. Remember that micrograms are baby milligrams, so it takes a lot of these to make 1 milligram. And it is good to learn/memorize these equations because it will be on your dosage cal. Whenever you're in the hospital, your nurse might give you a quiz and might try to get you to convert these, or even once you're a nurse, you might have to convert these. And don't just memorize it like this. You want to be able to convert maybe micrograms to grams or milligrams to kilograms. So you just have to really work with these numbers, get comfortable with them, and get used to working out these type of problems. The next thing we're going to look at is liters, which is the unit of measurement for volume. So we're talking about liquids. A milliliter is a baby liter. So it takes a lot of these to make 1 liter. And the equation that I have is 1 liter equals 1,000 milliliters. Once again, a liter is bigger than a milliliter. It's going to take a lot of milliliters to make a liter. This next thing I have is a gallon man, and it's also used for measurements of of liquids. And this really helps me. I know I have a friend who this doesn't help her. She likes to write it out, but I personally have to draw it. So what you do is you draw a big G, which is a gallon, and then you draw 4 Q's. So in 1 gallon is 4 quart. Then you're going to go into each quart and draw 2 P's. So that means that there's 2 pints in 1 quart. And if you want to look at the overall bigger picture, that makes 8 pints in 1 gallon. Then you want to go into each pint and draw 2 C's. So there's 2 cups in 1 pint, which means there's 4 cups in 1 quart, which means that there is 16 cups in 1 gallon. I hope I said that right. I feel like I just said something wrong. So 2 cups in 1 pint, 4 cups in 1 quart, and 16 cups in 1 gallon. And what I did over here to the side is I just drew a Q, kind of zoomed in. So you have your quart. It's 2 pints in 1 quart. It's 2 cups in 1 pint. And then inside of each cup is 8 fluid ounces. So it's 8 fluid ounces in 1 cup, which will make 16 in 1 pint, which will make 16. I'm sorry. So you have your Q, you have your P, you have your 2 C's, 8 fluid ounces. Okay, so what I realized is that I made a mistake here. Okay, so it's 8 fluid ounces in a cup. That makes 16 fluid ounces in 1 pint and 32 fluid ounces in 1 quart, which means altogether there's 128 fluid ounces in a gallon. So I have the equations written on both sides of the G. Just realize that at the bottom where it says 32 ounces, it should say 128 ounces for 1 gallon. And once again, like I said before, with the kilograms and the grams and things, be comfortable with these equations, but be able to work from, let's say, maybe quarts to pints or quarts to cups or cups to pints. Don't just be comfortable with knowing, okay, 1 gallon is 4 quart. Be able to go in detail and do these different equations. Okay, so this next picture is just some more equations that you guys need to know before going into actually solving problems. So first we have 1 teaspoon equals 5 milliliters. So a teaspoon is abbreviated with a lowercase t. 1 tablespoon equals 15 milliliters. And a tablespoon is abbreviated with a capital T. If you look at my note over here to the side, a tablespoon, which is a capital T, is bigger than the teaspoon, which is the lowercase t. So that could be a way of remembering it. Another equation is that 1 tablespoon equals 3 teaspoons. Another equation is 1 kilogram equals 2.2 pounds. And I used to always get this one confused. So what I do is remember that a pound is smaller than a kilogram. So it's going to take more pounds to make a kilogram. So 1 kilogram equals 2.2 pounds. And then this last one is 1 inch equals 2.5 centimeters. And then we also have to know how to convert temperature from degrees Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius. So degrees Fahrenheit equals, the equation for that is 1.8 times whatever the degrees Celsius is plus 32. And then for Celsius is whatever you have for degrees Fahrenheit minus 32 divided by 1.8. And the way that I remember these is, okay, so for when you're doing Fahrenheit, you're going to add to the degrees Celsius value. So you first are going to multiply, and when you think about multiplication and division, multiplication is the one that makes it bigger. So you're going to multiply that, then you're going to add 32 to that. And then for Celsius, you're going to take away from degrees Fahrenheit. So you're going to subtract 32 degrees, and you're going to divide it by 1.8. So for Fahrenheit, you're doing everything to make the number bigger. You're multiplying and you're adding. For degrees Celsius, you're doing everything to make the number smaller. You're going to subtract and you're going to divide. And then just remember, think about that Fahrenheit numbers are bigger than degrees Celsius numbers. So for Fahrenheit, you want to make degrees Celsius bigger. And to make a number bigger, you want to add it and multiply it. And for degrees Celsius, Celsius numbers are less than degrees Fahrenheit. So you want to subtract and take away. Subtract and divide to get your Celsius number. So that's how you do your temperature. Okay, so now moving on to the other side of the board. Now we're going to look at a method that I use to help me solve my fill in the blank equations. So for this one, this is when you're dealing with units that are in the same unit. I know that doesn't make sense, but like if I'm going from grams to milligrams, micrograms, kilograms, or if I'm going from milliliters to liters, it just has to be in the same unit. Okay, so the way that you want to think about it is you want to put your 2 hands in the air, your left and your right hand. Let your left hand be the largest numbers and let your right hand be the smallest numbers. So if you're going from a unit that is larger to a unit that is smaller, you're going to move the decimal point 3 places to the right. Okay, so if I'm going from grams to kilograms, as you see in my example down here, I'm going to move the decimal point 3 places to the right. So once you move the decimal point 3 places to the right, you have your answer. Once again, I'm going to put my hands up in the air. My left hand is my largest unit and my right hand is the smallest unit. When I'm going from the smallest to the largest unit, I'm going to move the decimal point 3 places to the left. And I hope you guys realize that when you're going from the smallest to the largest, you're going from your right hand to your left hand, which is moving to the left. And when you're going from the largest to the smallest, you're going from your left hand to your right hand, which is moving to the right. Okay, so if I'm going from a unit smaller to larger, like in my second example, 1,000 micrograms equal blank milligrams, I'm moving my decimal point 3 places to the right, which will give me 1 milligram. Okay? Any questions on that? Of course, comment down below, email me, DM me. Okay, so the next thing we're going to focus on for dosage calculation is reading medication labels. So at my school on the test, they give us multiple medication labels and they're going to ask us various information. And all you have to do literally when reading and interpreting medication labels is read the label. All the answers are there. This isn't something that you have to memorize and that you have to just remember from something in the past. You literally just have to read the label. So this could be the easiest part, but also the most challenging because it's tricky. Okay, so there are different things that are included on a medication label. They have the trade name, the generic name, the dosage strength, the total volume, the form, directions, and the route. Okay, so going through each thing, the trade name usually has the R and a circle symbol, showing you that it's the trade name. This is basically the name that belongs to the company. And the trade name is usually big and the first name you will see on the medication label if there's 2 names. Okay, if there's 2 names, underneath the trade name will be the generic name. This is usually written smaller and sometimes it's in parentheses. And one thing about the generic name is it always has to be on the medication. So they don't necessarily have to put the trade name on the bottle, but they have to put the generic name there. So if there's only one name on the bottle, it's the generic name. So let's say you have a question and they give you the medication label and they ask you for the trade name and the generic name, but there's only one name on the bottle. That is a generic name. So for the trade name, you will write none. Okay, moving on to the dosage strength. This is the amount of medication in a specific measurement. So it'll be how much medication is in one pill or how much medication is in a milliliter. And this piece of information also stands out on the medication label. Oftentimes I've seen it under the name somewhere, whether it's just written or that it's in the block. That's going to be the dosage strength. So how much the person is taking when they take 1 dose of medicine. So if the medicine wants for them to take 2 milliliters of medicine, it'll say like there's so much medication in 2 liters, and that would be your dosage strength. Or if it wants them to only take 1 pill and there is 20 milligrams in 1 pill, the dosage strength would be 20 milligrams per 1 pill. And when you're writing your answer for the dosage strength, I write my answer just like that. So let's say that the dosage strength is 20 milligrams per 2 pills. I will write 20 milligrams / 2 pills, so per 2 pills. The next thing is the total volume. How much medication is in the container? So how many pills are in there or how many milliliters of liquid? So if it's 60 capsules, 60 pills, the total volume is 60 capsules, 20 pills. If there is 30 milliliters, the total volume would be 30 milliliters. And this also is on the medication label. You just have to read very carefully to see where it is. The next thing is the form. This is a type of preparation in the bottle. So a form can be capsules, pills. It can be a liquid. It can be an ointment. There's so many different forms of medication, which will also be on the label. And most likely it's going to be where the total volume is. So like it says 60 capsules. Capsules is the form. Or it can say 30 milliliters. A liquid would be the form. You just always have to read it and make sure that you know your different forms. The next thing that you might see on the medication label is directions for the medicine. So I know sometimes they might ask, what are the directions for this medication? It'll literally tell you, and the print might be small, but it'll tell you mix this together before serving, or do not break, or do not chew this medication. So those are the directions, and all you have to do is read. The next thing that they might ask you is the route, and that is, how is the medication administered? There are different routes, and you also have to know their abbreviations. So you can take something orally, you can take something sublingual, which is underneath your tongue. You can take something buccal, which is putting it in your cheek. Insertion, which is the only thing I can think about for insertion. I don't know how to say that word, but the only thing I can think about for that is maybe like a birth control method, whether they have the Nexplanon in their arm or maybe the IUD. Another route would be inhalation, so like a breathing treatment, a nebulizer, intranasal in their nose, and topical, so like a cream, an ointment. And I have some abbreviations down below that you guys can look at. This isn't all of them. Once again, read your book and read whatever your teacher sends you. So that's all that is on reading medication labels. I think I have an example I will add in so you guys can practice it. Okay, so these next couple of pictures is also the second majority of the test. So it's reading and calculating medication orders. So what they are going to give you is what the doctor ordered, so like the doctor's prescription, and what you have available to you. And what they give you should include the route, so how the medication should be given, the frequency, how often, the amount of medication you should give, and also the medication. That's what is considered a complete doctor order. I can't remember when, but sometime throughout the semester we go through that, and it's questions on our test, like, is this a complete order? If not, what is missing? Okay, so let's look at our first example. What they have ordered is Phenergan, 25 milligrams IM Q6H. So let's break this down. The Phenergan is the medication. 25 milligrams is the amount. The route is IM, which is an abbreviation for intramuscular. And then they have Q6H. So Q means every, H means hour. So that's every 6 hours. That's the frequency. And what's available to you is Phenergan 50 milligrams per milliliter. So how you want to solve these problems is you're going to set up an equation. And that equation is D over H times Q equals X. And what the D stands for is desired. So your desired amount, and that's what's ordered. The H stands for have, what you have, aka what's available. The Q would be the number of tablets or the number of milliliters, and X, of course, would be your answer. So if we want to use that equation to do this first example we would put 25 milligrams as our D, because that's what's ordered, 50 milligrams as our H, because that's what we have, and then 1 will go there for Q because it's just available. It's 50 milligrams per milliliter. If that was to say 50 milligrams per 5 milliliters, then we will put 5 in place of Q. And then you just solve. So you'll first divide 25 by 50 and then multiply by 1. You want to make sure you never forget to multiply the Q, because if you forget to multiply the Q and say there's a 5 there, your whole answer would be wrong. Another thing to point out is when you're writing your answers, you have to have leading zeros. So we couldn't just write 0.5 for this. It would have to be 0.5. So a leading zero, but no trailing zeros. So if the answer was just 5, we would just put 5 and not 5.0. So leading zeros, but no trailing zeros. Okay, so going on to the next example. What we have ordered is ampicillin 0.375 grams IM every 6 hours. And what's available is ampicillin 250 milligrams per milliliter. So once again, We will use the same equation, but this time before we even start, we have to have the same units. So what's ordered is in grams and what's available is in milligrams. So we have to take what's ordered and convert it into what we have available. So you would have to go from grams to milligrams. Again, using our method that we learned earlier, we're going from a larger unit to a smaller unit. That means we're going to be moving to the right. So we move our decimal point 3 places to the right. We get 375 milligrams. So our equation would be 375 milligrams over 250 milligrams times 1 because it's per milliliter. And you will solve it. So 375 divided by 250, then multiply it by 1 and you get 1.5. Okay. And then finally for this last example, we have, give me 1 second. Okay, we have acetaminophen is ordered 1,000 milligrams PO every 4 hours PRN. So here's some new abbreviations I'll break down. So the medication is acetaminophen. That's 1,000 milligrams orally. PO stands for oral. Again, we have this QH, so every 4 hours, and PRN is as needed. What we have available is 100 milligrams per 5 milliliters. So we have the same units. That's great. So we're going to set up our equation. 1,000 milligrams over 100 milligrams. Just to make this easier for me when dividing, I crossed out the matching zeros. So that left me with 10 over 1 times 5 because what we have available is per 5 milliliters. So now we put 5 in place for Q. And you solve and you get your answer of 50. One thing that I did not point out in this video is that you have to know how to long divide. Everything the first semester is done by hand. So go back over long division, go back over working with fractions, and just rebrush up on the basic algebra. Okay guys, that wraps up this video. I hope that this video was very helpful to you. I hope you guys passed on your first go round. And I just really hope that you prosper. Please continue to send me questions, comment down below. I have put my email out and also my Twitter. Feel free to reach out to me those ways and let me know what else you guys want to see in videos. And I'll see y'all in the next video.